Not long ago, we ranked almost every creatable kingdom in Crusader Kings 3, and to my surprise, it actually did pretty well. For a small creator like me, that was huge. But not even 10 minutes after dropping that video, the comments started rolling in, more. Where's the rest? We demand empires. Turns out the CK3 community's appetite for content is only rivaled by Bruce's obsession with tortilla chips and socks. So, back to the salt mines I went. Today we're diving into 12 creatable empires in Crusader Kings 3 that aren't already in existence from one of the start dates. It's interesting to see how many of these empires overlap. At least 4 empires are intersecting in the Middle East. Technically, there are more, like the Timurids, hidden in the game files, or the post-Mongol collapse empires that sometime appear, but we're skipping those since you can't reliably create them every playthrough. Though, if you're wondering, the Red Horde is easily my favorite of the post-Mongol Empire states. With that out of the way, let's jump into the tier list and see how many of you I can upset this time. Bactria, the first empire on our tier list, comes with a history that stretches all the way back to 600 BCE. Why is it in a medieval focused game is anyone's guess, considering it basically faded into obscurity by 300 CE and spent most of its existence under someone else's rule and seems to have only ever been a kingdom according to Wikipedia. Shouldn't start a list by talking shit, but here we are. To form this odd and arguably forgotten empire, you'll need to meet a few quirky requirements. First, be a king or emperor, then control the Bactria region, which pulls from both the Transoceania, Khorasan kingdoms. Culture must be Afghan or Tajik, or descendant from either, and your government type can be anything other than tribal. Oh, and don't forget you'll need to be illustrious level prestige and follow the religions of Zoroastrianism, Buddhism, or Manichaeism. Do all that and voila, you've got yourself a quaint little Bactrian empire. Now, what do you actually get from jumping through all those hoops? The usual, a heroic legend seed, permanent modifier that gives it development growth and fast, cheaper buildings, but only in the county of Balka. In the end, Bactria is a neat little guy. Unique, definitely. Powerful, not really. Humble, extremely. And humbleness doesn't get you into S tier. This one's sitting firmly in C rank. Beth Nahrain is another empire on our list with a semi-mystical past. Were there people living there? Sure. Was it an actual empire? Probably not, but who's to say? It was added earlier this year alongside Hindustan, and hey, I'm not gonna complain when Paradox gives away free content. One of the few empires that requires you to be part of the Styric culture and gives bonuses if you are a Nestorian faith. Branch of considered heretical by most other main Christian sects. Why? Something about Jesus being both a man and divine at the same time is heretical. Look, I don't know, I'm just a guy in a garage trying to pay rent by making videos. Anyways, to form Beth Nahrain, you'll need to be independent, hold the kingdom tier title, specifically both that of Jazeera and Mesopotamia. On top of that, you'll need Syria or Jerusalem, 1,000 prestige, and to be of the Syriac culture, as stated before. Once you meet all the requirements, you can take the Home of the Rivers decision that gives you the Empire of Beth Nahrain, whose de jure territory will be adjusted based on which kingdoms you held at the time. You can also get a boost to your steward's promote culture task, which increases the effectiveness in counties with ebb and flow. Basically, all your counties get this for 50 years. On top of that, you'll earn 100 renown and 100 fervor for your faith. Then comes one of the more unique parts. You can get to choose one of these 3 rewards. 2 of them are household modifiers. Knowledge is power, which increases learning experience and gives you more learning per level of devotion. Discipline and order, which gives you more martial experience and boosts martial per level of fame. The third is a trait, Sovereign of 2 Rivers, which is solid, but only lasts the lifetime of your current character. As for ranking, originally I would have put Beth Nahrain in B tier, but with the ability to pick from a few genuinely strong bonuses on top of everything, this one has definitely been bumped up to A tier in my book. Greater Armenia. It's like Armenia, but well, greater. Unfortunately, this empire hasn't seen a single update since its debut at launch. No bonuses, no fancy mechanics, just straight up title. Not much of a payoff when you finally form it. Maybe this one's about the journey and not the destination. It can be really challenging to create depending on your start date. You're nestled right between east and west, Byzantines breathing down your neck on one side, and Arabia, Persia, or Seljuks pressing in from the other. As for the requirements, pretty straightforward. 3,000 prestige, 1,000 piety, and full control over the lands of Greater Armenia, which totals around 11 duchies. If you're feeling ambitious, you can stretch it to include likes of Georgia, Daylem, Jazeera, Syria, Anatolia, Pontus, and even Jerusalem. You know, for an even greater Armenia, rank-wise, I've given it a C. I was tempted to slap it with a D, given the steep requirements and the lack of reward, but I've got a soft spot for this one. It was one of the first empires I've ever made a series about, so it gets a nostalgic bump up in the list. Hindustan is another recent addition to the game, one of the few empire titles based in India. Well, aside from India itself, what makes Hindustan unique is that forming it automatically switches your government type from clan or feudal to administrative. Some people love administrative government, others like myself find a little bit too tedious when running a massive realm. But enough bellyaching. So what do you need to make Hindustan a reality? First, hit the required level of fame and devotion. Then you'll need to control Punjab, Delhi, and other kingdoms in the region. Your realm must be at least 40 counties in size, and either a current caliph must like you, or you have to hold a hook on them. Wrap that all up with 500 gold and 200 piety, and once you check the box, here's your reward. You become an administrative government, and all your vassals get converted as well. You increase your legitimacy, you get 500 renown, a legendary seed, and the lawgiver trait. On top of that, if you conquer kingdoms within the Rajasthan, Bengal, or Deccan Empire, those kingdoms will become de jure parts of Hindustan, meaning you can eventually unite all of India under a single button click. As for the ranking, Hindustan is a bit of a tough call. It's content in a part of the map that desperately needs some love, which I respect, but also forces you into a government type I personally am not a huge fan of. Besides the switch, the bonuses are decent, some legitimacy, honestly you can get more through funerals, some renown, and a cool title. Still, since the decision is cheaper than switching to admin in the normal way, and I like the whole Unite India angle, I'll be generous and give it a solid A. Of course, right after Hindustan comes the Empire of India, or more specifically, the decision to become Chakravarti, the universal ruler. This is another empire on this list that consolidates multiple existing empires into one massive big boy title. This decision is open to any followers of Buddhism, Hinduism, and Jainism. Interestingly, there are no cultural requirements, probably because Paradox didn't want to code it across the 20 plus cultures that make up the subcontinent. The requirements are pretty straightforward, though not exactly easy. You need to follow one of the 3 acceptable faiths. You must reach the highest level of devotion. You have to have full control over the 3 major Indian empires, Deccan, Rajasthan, and Bengal. And finally, you'll need to get a good chunk of piety and gold, both of which scale based on your character. So, what do you get for your trouble? A heroic legend seed, a leap up in level of fame, slick new trait, Chakravarti, which sadly isn't inheritable, which I think is a missed opportunity, and best of all, you unlock a powerful CB, rightful ruler of the world, which makes your holy wars cheaper and even sticks around if you reform faiths. As for ranking, I'm putting India in a firm A tier. Much like Hindustan, it's a solid chunk of content in a part of the map that often is overlooked. Unique trait and the CB modifier elevates it from B to A in my book. When All Under Heaven eventually drops, introducing the new Hegemon tier title set above empires, India is one of the regions Paradox has confirmed will be included. Could easily push Chakravarti all the way to S tier territory depending on how Hegemons are implemented. But for now, holds strong as a clear and well-earned A. Next, the Latin Empire. The Latin Empire is an event empire depending on your game settings under Chance of Francocratia. You have the Crusades split off and attack Byzantium in the normal historical way after 3 Crusades, anytime a Catholic Crusade happens, and of course, never. This is all dependent on if you have the Roads to Power DLC, of course. It all starts like any other Crusade. The Pope builds up enough fervor, enough time has passed since the last one, and boom, a crusade is declared. Then comes the twist. You get the Unjust Dispossession event, where a Byzantine claimant, usually Theodora Comenius, approaches you. She whispers sweet nothings about how Byzantium would be totally better off if she was in charge, and proposes redirecting the crusade to support her claim. At this point, you're given 3 options. Dismiss her and stick with the original crusade, join her crusade and fight the Byzantines, use your diplomatic skills to convince other crusaders to join the new war for Byzantium. If you choose 2 or 3, you and some of the crusaders will break off and start attacking the Eastern Romans, while the rest of Christendom carries on with its regular scheduled crusade. If you win this 4th crusade, you reach a fork in the road. You discover all the wealth of the Byzantine Empire has mysteriously vanished, and you're left unpaid. Take a more diplomatic route, gaining 2 diplomatic perk points, 1 martial point, and symbolic payout. Or sack Constantinople outright. This gives you mountains of cash, the Despoiler of Byzantium trait, which provides dread and siege bonus, but of course, it makes every Greek hate your guts. Penultimate event, Baptism by Fire. You get to decide who sits on the new Latin throne. It can be you, one of the other crusaders, or even a family member. If you claim it for yourself, you'll give all your previous titles to a family member, taking Constantinople and destroying the Byzantine Empire in the process. But there's a catch. The Latin Empire has no de jure land at all. If you want it to function properly, you'll need to either build a legend, good luck with that, or take the much easier legitimizing Latin dominance decision. This lets you individually integrate the old Byzantine kingdoms into your new empire. Each time you do it, gets you a bonus to control and culture acceptance, but it is piecemealed and each kingdom has to be added one at a time. I know I've already handed a lot of A ranks out, but come on, this one deserves it. The Latin Empire event chain is packed with twists and tough decisions. You get a rewriting history, taking the Eastern throne, and flipping the power dynamic of the medieval world. And let's not forget the cherry on top, the Way of Empires event. It lets you choose to become an administrative government, raking in some more cash, or if you have certain traits, unlock the ability to blind or castrate prisoners, because nothing says I'm the real emperor now like some good old-fashioned Byzantine brutality. At this point, with Cons of the Set being so recent, most of you probably already know how this mechanic and requirements for forming the Mongol Empire work. But if you're new to this game, let's do a quick rundown of what makes this a one-of-a-kind decision so special. For the update, forming the Mongol Empire was easy. All you needed was some land in the steppe, an empire of sufficient size, and to be Mongol heritage and Tengri faith. Click the button and bam, you're the Khan of Khans. Now with the Great Steppe mechanics in play, it is a much tougher uphill climb. First, you'll need to have absolute massive herd, about 75,000 horses. These feed into your dominance level, which has to reach unrestricted before you can even access the decision to become the greatest of all Khans. Then comes the actual decision, which has long checklists. Can't be at war, you need to have enough money and prestige, you must be nomad and based in the Great Steppe, your empire must be united, meaning all your powerful nomadic vassals must be loyal and obedient. And most importantly, there can only be one Khan of Khans. If someone else has claimed the title before you, tough luck, the door is closed. And just to make things spicier, to unify the steppe, you'll need to fight a massive war against all your disloyal vassals and rival neighbors. Depending on your starting position, that could mean fighting tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of enemies if you lose. If you lose, reset all the way back to square one. Easily rage quit moment. But if you win, oh boy, the rewards are wild. You gain the greatest of all Khans trait, gives a massive boost to herd growth, combat prowess, dread, and movement speed. You also unlock the golden lineage trait, increasing levies, herd, and tax contributions from all your terrified vassals. And on top of that, you'll get event troops, a huge horde of horse riders ready to sweep across the world. Plus you unlock the Onslaught Casus Belli, a lightning fast conquest tool that makes the world domination not just possible, but inevitable. It's a huge payoff for a massive amount of work and easily one of the most dynamic and challenging empire formations in the game. Ranking, no contest, S tier. You get two good traits, the best CB in the game, and one of the most satisfying power arcs in CK3. Not just strong, it's completely different flavor of play. Absolutely worth it. Outremer or Outremer is the Crusader's wet dream of an empire. It's one of those titles that might not be on your radar unless you're deep into Crusader RP. Think of Jerusalem plus you conquer the Holy Land and then they say, actually, I think all of this should be Catholic, from the Ascalon to Oman. So what do you need to form the shining beacon of Catholic ambition? It's actually not too difficult. Be Catholic, reach living legend fame, hold a duke or kingdom tier title, completely control the Outremer region. Oh, and one little restriction, you cannot be of Byzantine culture. Why? Probably because they're hardcore Orthodox and Paradox said no overlap allowed. What is your reward for pulling this off? First, you destroy the Sunni Caliphate title, which earns you the eternal gratitude of Christendom, or at least a lot of brownie points from the Pope. Then you create a new hybrid culture with Masharik. This is a mashup of European and Arabian cultures. Depending on what cultures get blended, it can be seriously powerful. It's randomized, so no guarantees you'll get the perfect mix, but sometimes RNG is on your side. You can also unlock a unique innovation, Desert Tactics, which gives you access to Chasseur, a new light cavalry men-at-arms unit. They're slightly more expensive to create and maintain, but their stats are solid and make them a stronger addition to your desert warfare. Outremer is a bit tricky. Takes a lot of land that's not easy to conquer, especially early on. But unique hybrid culture plus special men-at-arms unit has a decent roleplay angle, pushes it above average, giving it a B. Now watch as every Crusader roleplayer furiously storms the comment section. The Roman Empire. Most people's Roman Empire is the Roman Empire. Does this joke still land? Or have we completely lost the plot? Anyway, the weird thing about the most talked about empire in Crusader Kings 3, that only 2 empires can restore it, is the Holy Roman Empire and Byzantium. Both share the same basic requirements, but the outcomes are wildly different. To form Rome, you need to be a legendary figure, hold one of the 2 Roman empires, HRE and Byzantium, control 15 specified duchies scattered across the Mediterranean. Once you've done that, the decision to restore Rome becomes available. If you're doing it as the HRE, you absorb all the empires you hold, gain the Augustus trait, and unlock a new CB to invade all former Roman provinces. It's fine, but honestly kind of anticlimactic. But if you play as Byzantium, and you have the Roads to Power DLC, I assume, that's where things get spicy. You can get 3 branching options. The exact same route as the HRE, reform Hellenism as a Roman faith, gaining access to unique household gods tenet, which is the only way you can get this tenet. And last, the Pax Romana path, the most interesting of them all. With Pax Romana, you get everything from the 2 options, plus an incredibly powerful CB that lets you invade entire empires and take their lands in one go. Sounds broken? It kind of is. It accelerates the Mongol invasion, which could actually help you clean up the rest of the map much quicker. It increases the likelihood of wars from rival kingdoms and emperors. And worst of all peasant factions in your realm will specifically target you. So yeah, hope you like rebellions. Kind of a side note, dismantling the pretenders. Before we get to the ranking, it's worth mentioning dismantling the Pretenders decision, closely tied to the Roman storyline. As either the HRE or the Byzantines, if you hold all of Italy and a few of the key duchies, you can declare a war to destroy the other would-be Roman Empire. If you lose, you pay a massive sum of gold, but if you win, you delete their title and absorb all the de jure territory. It's a great move, especially if you're the HRE trying to silence the Greek claimants. Although, to be fair, if you're already taking Pax Romana as Byzantium, it might just be easier to steamroll them with your new CB instead of roleplay rivalry. Ranking time. Here's the thing, Rome is in a weird spot. If you're the HRE, the payoff feels kind of flat. But as a Byzantium with the DLC, it's easily one of the most compelling and rewarding empires paths in the game. So we're putting this in a strange in-between space, A and S tier. If you're mad about it, blame Paradox for giving us 2 paths with separate and unequal endings. The next 2 will be about the Slavic empires. The Slavias. We've got West Slavia, South Slavia, and granddaddy just plain Slavia. You might be wondering, what about East Slavia? Well, at this point, you're basically just forming the Russian Empire. Let's focus on West Slavia, which might actually be Best Slavia. It's a relatively small empire covering Bohemia, Poland, Pomerania, and parts of Germany. Compared to the full Slavia decision, this one is much simpler to pull off. To form the West Slavia, you'll need the following: a Western Slavic heritage, Czech, Polish, Slovene, Poblanian, or Carinthian. Control over the Western Slavic region, a primary title of one of the Western Slavic kingdoms, excluding Germany. So what's your reward? You'll get a fairly cheap empire title, a legendary seed, a bump in crown authority, and 2 free innovations, 1 civic and 1 military. Depending on the age you're in, that can be a massive advantage, especially for catching up tech-wise. Ranking West Slavia, I'd place it in B tier. The bonuses are solid, easy empire formation and a quick tech boost, but beyond that, it lacks the flair and long-term impact of some of the flashier empires on this list. Still a great choice for players who want a smooth pathway to empire without needing to conquer half the map. Now comes uniting all of Slavia. A decision that easily one of the most demanding empire formations in the game, simply because of the sheer amount of land that you need to claim to make this behemoth a reality. This empire spans a staggering 15 kingdoms and over 350 counties, making it the largest empire on the list in terms of raw land required, at least when it comes to base requirements. To form Slavia, all you'll need is all the territory, a culture from Slavic culture group, a bit of gold, that's it. Sounds simple, right? But in reality, you know. And what do you get for all that effort? Well, don't shoot the messenger, 750 prestige, the Empire of Slavia title, and 3 innovations from other Slavic cultures. Last one is especially nice when paired with the Western Slavic decision, but let's be honest, it still feels pretty underwhelming considering the amount of effort required. Ranking. C tier. How is it that you get more from forming an empire that's 5 times smaller? Slavia feels like it was added early on and hasn't gotten any real love since. No one Slavic people vibe, which feels like it missed opportunity. Hopefully when All Under Heaven drops and introduces hegemons, Slavia gets promoted to one of those higher tier titles. Because if it doesn't, man, that's just a shame. The North Sea Empire, or as some might call it, the edging empire of Crusader Kings 3. Thanks to how long it makes you wait for a payoff that may or may not deliver. You'll be holding your breath and your kingdoms for 30 years or more, depending on how fast you can collect 3 required crowns for the royal blue title. Requirements are as follows. You need to hold England, Denmark, and Norway as kingdom titles, keeping all 3 under your control for at least 30 years each, and the timer resets when your character dies. You also need to control a certain amount of heartlands, which feels redundant since you know you already control these titles. You must not be an empire title tier, be at least illustrious in fame, and have 100 prestige and the required gold. And you must have Northern Lords DLC, which is about still, I think, $12.99. Lastly, and this is very important, do not de jure shift any of those kingdoms. If you do, the decision gets invalidated, especially looking at you, Daneland. This title will ruin everything. And what do you get after all the waiting? Honestly, not much. A heroic legendary seed, and the kingdoms become the de jure drift into the new Northern Sea Empire title. That's it. No new modifiers, no culture change, just a clean new map color and a polite golf clap from the game. The North Sea Empire is fun to form, sure, but when compared to the rest of this list, it's seriously lacking in content or meaningful rewards. Ranking, C tier. It's a humble title with a slow burn, but in the end, it doesn't give me any ammo I need to take it to the big boss and ask for a promotion, and mechanically pretty underwhelming. Before we wrap this list and say our goodbyes, there's something that has been bugging me about all these titles. Let's end the video the way we started it by talking a little bit more smack. Feels like every single one of these titles is missing something. That thought didn't click in until I saw the Reddit post for the millionth time. You know, the one where the US soldier in World War II is casually rocking the Holy Roman Empire's crown, jewels, and regalia? Where are all the artifacts? The only one I can think of is the HRE. But why aren't we getting a choice of crown, regalia, or even a shiny new throne? Empires were massive achievements in the medieval world, so why don't they come with some matching bling? Paradox, explain yourself. Did you forget that our artifacts existed? Or is it just because they're locked behind a DLC, so you left them out entirely? That's all I have to say about that. Let me know how you would have ranked the empires down below in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to the channel. And if you want to support us even more, check out our Patreon. There's a couple hours worth of bonus content waiting for you, and your name will pop up on the stream and end of videos, which is coming up right now. Have a good rest of your day. Ciao.